name is Sean Johns. I'm part of the leadership team here at Reach. And we've been talking a lot recently as a church about different practices, different rhythms of life. And actually, as I was praying about what exactly, in terms of rhythm of life, can be quite a broad topic, what exactly God might want to say to us today, I felt pulled to talk about particularly the valleys. Not the Welsh valleys, although I do love Wales and could talk for a long time about how great it is. But no, the valleys of life, not the hills, but the lows. And what are our ways of dealing with the valleys? And how do we find God in the valleys? And just thinking about different tools that we can use in hard times of life. So speaking of hard times, I've had the great displeasure of being raised an Everton fan. Sad times for me. This is my family. There's my kids also, poor things. They don't have a choice in the matter. It's inherited, got blue blood. It's how it works. And a couple of years ago, Everton nearly got relegated. I mean, twice. Nearly got relegated. And it was sad. It was a sad time. And we all cope with it in my family in different ways. So my older brother, David, mostly sarcasm was how he coped with it, just mocking Everton, you know. Dan, some of you know, I don't think he's here today, but Dan has a very extreme reaction. Utter and total denial that he ever liked football, never heard of Everton, refusal to watch the matches, will not engage, pretends like football didn't ever exist and he never liked it anyway. So that was his way of coping. Dad was like, oh, it's not a big deal, like it's just football, who cares, there's more important things to life, good holy answer, but we know he really cared under the surface. And me, I think I just cried, to be honest. I think I was pregnant at the time, so I'll use that as an excuse, but I think I probably did. And poor Ezra, my son, as you can see there, he's been raised in this, and he's catching on pretty quick how hard it might be, because he's just watched his dad's team, Arsenal, win the league. Yeah, and he recently went up to Simon, and he was like, "Oh, Daddy, you're a winner, aren't you? Because you support Arsenal." And Simon was like, "Yeah, but you're a winner too, buddy." And he was like, "No, I'm not. I'm an Everton fan." Sorry, buddy, he's 4. Poor kid. And I think he's learning a valuable life lesson. Age 4, what do we do in hard times? Do we jump ship and become an Arsenal fan? No, we don't. We don't. I do feel him slipping away. I feel like I might lose him to Arsenal, but no, it's not happening. And it's tempting, but in reality, we learn to cope with loss. That's all we need to learn to do. It's not always winning, and we keep the hope, right? Is there any England football fans in the room? There's got to be a few. But we're all a bit hesitant because we're like, yeah, it's coming home. We're kind of, a few world tournaments in, and we're like, ooh, come on. Anyway, yeah, enough said there, to be honest. I actually spoke to Dad yesterday, who's in America at the moment on this Synergy trip. He's in the second half of the trip. He sends his love, says hi. And he was saying that the World Cup's obviously in full force in America right now. But actually, unless you were talking to a football fan, like soccer, football, you wouldn't really know, because no one's that bothered about it. Like they're focusing on the Knicks, that's the big thing that's just gone on. The Knicks have just won, and everyone's excited about that. No one's that, you wouldn't even know, he said. And it made me think, I wonder if when we don't really hope for good outcomes, maybe we just lack motivation to stay engaged, Like if you don't think your team's gonna win, you're like, nah, you do a damn. Never liked it. I don't even want to watch it. I don't know. It's just, of course, everything I'm talking about here, all this football chat is really trivial compared to actual valleys of life. But I'm trying to just set the scene with an example here of getting us to start thinking about what commitment looks like to each other and to God, especially in hard times when it doesn't feel like we're winning. What do we do in all seasons of life? So when life gets hard, What do you do? Some people ignore the hard stuff. They might escape through any distraction possible. They might dive into work, drown themselves in busyness. They might hit the gym. These aren't necessarily bad things. Maybe you just watch more TV. Maybe you just need a glass of wine. I don't know what it is, but we all sort of cope in different ways. Some people fight the hard time, like, bring it on. I'm going to change this. I'm going to fix it myself. I've been there, but sometimes it's to our own detriment. If we're doing it all, I can do this. Sometimes we end up in a worse place. But we all have different ways of life and stuff that we instinctively do when times are hard. And it can feel like, when sometimes you don't know what to do, or you're doing something that's not helping all that much, it can feel like you're walking through a really foggy, really dark, really drudgy, really scary valley. A bit like that one. It's quite beautiful, actually. I probably could have found a scarier one, but it's dark. It's gloomy. There's a storm looming. It's probably foggy. Can't really see over the whole way out. So what do we do when we're in the valley? How do we keep growing spiritually when life is really stinking hard? There's been seasons in my life when I've needed rhythms to help keep me going, like to help me survive, really, is what it's felt like, when literally I haven't known how I'm going to pay next month's rent. When I haven't even had the breath in my lungs or the faith to pray for my son's health and for his circumstances to change. It's just felt too hard. When it's felt like my own brain is trying to kill me through disordered eating and depression. It's mind-blowing. Can't see a way out. How do I just snap out of the valley? It doesn't work. When I've been so cruelly treated by people that I trusted. When I haven't understood why my loved ones have died. Dark, dark, foggy valleys of life. And it feels like the valley of the shadow of death. And yet, somehow, I still found God, or rather he found me in the middle of the darkest bit of that, sorry, I'm pointing to my screen, the darkest bit of that valley. He found me in the midst of it. Sometimes it was in the most unexpected of times, in the darkest moments. Sometimes it took a long time. But God is always there, even in the darkness. And something I've learned about rhythms and spiritual practices is that they don't necessarily remove suffering, but they help us connect and realize that God is in the midst of it. He never leaves us, never leaves our side. And I want to go a little bit practical this morning, just giving you really an example of a tool that I have found really helpful for me personally in all of those valleys that I talked about before. And I think it's going to be different for everyone. You might have different things that you do, but this is just an example this morning of something I found helpful, because we often find ourselves doing our habits and falling into stuff in hard times that we just do instinctively. And the invitation today is that you're invited to be with God, to bring him into it, to connect with you, to find your rhythm with him. But really what I want to talk about today is the invitation to the scriptures. Scriptures are a really helpful tool, and particularly the Psalms. I want to encourage you, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know where to go, where to turn to, go to the Psalms. It's a really good place to start. And it's a place I found myself repeatedly returning to. It can be a really helpful go-to rhythm in hard times. And even just last week, I was having a really hard week in lots of different ways. And it all just hit me all at once. And I texted Simon, and I was like, I'm in bed. I can't move. I found a good psalm. Bring some wine. And he did. He showed up with not only wine, but also chocolate. Well done, Simon. Round of applause. And he knows the drill, right? We sat down. We read a psalm together. We were silent for a little minute or two. We reflected. And then we prayed together. And I went to bed that night at peace. Because God met me in my storm of swirling stress and darkness and anxiety. And that's become one of our rhythms, definitely, with or without the wine. The Psalms are the thing, the connection with God is the thing that has brought me deep, deep peace and grounds me, levels me. The Psalms are about learning to be honest with God, I think. Well, that's what I see in it, is I see a lot of honesty. That King David in the Bible is traditionally credited with writing 73, I think, of the Psalms. And honestly, sometimes, I don't know if you've read them ever, but sometimes I read the Psalms and I'm like, whoa, David, dude, are you okay? Like, that's a little bit much, a little bit unhinged at times, the Psalms. Like, sometimes there's a lot of lovely bits. We've sung some of the lovely bits today. The Lord is my shepherd. Be still and know that I am God. Like, lovely, yes. Comforting, yes. Good one for the Instagram story, yes. Great. And sometimes, the Psalms often start off really strong. They're like, the Lord is my hope and salvation. And then you keep reading. The next line is, the wicked advance against me to devour me. Okay. And often they say things like, destroy them, Lord. Or consume them in wrath. That's literally quotes out of Psalms. And I kind of think, wow, a bit intense. Like, bit dramatic. Calm down, my dude. I came here for those green pastures. And I kind of just try and skim over the wicked, devouring part of the Psalms. But listen, when I go to the Psalms, when I'm miserable, I look at them a different way, actually. And I've never understood the Psalms more than when I'm having a hard time. And I'm like, oh, this guy's onto something. Did he say something about striking who down? No, I'm joking. Or like, he says he feels like a worm? Yeah, that's relatable. I get it. But when your life falls apart, basically what I'm trying to say is the Psalms start to look a little bit different. It starts to look like, actually, this is an imperfect, terrified, angry, weary human who is being honest with God. Can you just pass my drink, please? Sorry, I'm getting... Thank you. Okay, Psalm 13 has one of my favorite, most relatable opening lines of a psalm. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? Oh, man. And then the next three lines, how long, how long, how long? How long do I have to go through this? I can feel it. Have you ever been there? Like, how long? I can barely take it anymore. Come on. Something change. And David talks, like, a lot about suffering at the hand of his enemies. Literal ones, but I believe probably figurative ones too. Our enemies look like all sorts of different things. Maybe it's pride or fear or unforgiveness or whatever you're battling. There are enemies, and sometimes it feels like they're unrelenting. And the valley is so long, like, come on. But one of the gifts of the Psalms in being this honest, the psalmist being this honest, is that it almost gives you permission or encourages you to name your enemies, to feel your grief, and to cry your lament to the Lord. To stop pretending. You don't need to pretend with God. To to stop sanitizing our prayers. Like we need to pray in a certain perfect kind of way to get heard by God. No, the Psalms are wild the way that they're honest. It's crazy the stuff that it says, but it's honest to God, and I think God probably loves it. The Psalms teach us that faith isn't about pretending that everything's fine. It's about bringing everything that is not fine into the presence of God, inviting God into the not fine. It's about bringing our darkness into God's light. And if you can't carry yourself into his light, then just open the door to create some space for God, and he will come right in. Don't even have to do anything. You can be sat on your knees. You can be laid on the floor. You don't have to do a thing except open your heart to the Lord, and his presence will meet you there. And I appreciate we talked about a lot of the heavy, the dark, the hard. But here's the good bit, right? Guess what happens next in most of these Psalms? The second half of the Psalm comes. And by this, I'm meaning the hope, the worship, the confession of who God is, the glory on his name. After the misery and the anger and the fear, we go from lament in the valley to praise, often still in the valley. Even when the waters are still rising, even when my circumstances haven't changed and I'm still in this valley, I still can't see any clearer, even then, yet I will praise his name. He is still good. I am still loved. And that's enough. And you know what? Sometimes those chains do break. Sometimes when we're praising in the prison cell, like Karen talked about, reminded us of, sometimes the chains do break. We can have hope. We can always have hope that the freedom will come. That's what faith is about. And look what, I'm just going to do some examples of what this looks like, of the praise that comes at the end of the Psalms. So Psalm 13, but, whatever else I said before, all that wallowing in darkness, but I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation, and I will sing of the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. There's a lot of power in declaring how God has been good to you when it doesn't feel like there's anything good going on right now. Psalm 59, but I will still sing of your strength in the morning. I will sing of your love, for you are my fortress. You are my refuge in times of trouble. This is just two. There's loads. There's loads and loads and loads of examples of where you see the pattern of a psalm going from lament to praise. The reality of life to the reality of God and who he is. What a wonderful tool that they are, and a gift that their psalms are to us. Even when my world is crumbling and I still will use whatever breath I have left in my lungs to confess that God has been good to me before. He is good today, and he will be good again to me in the future. This has helped to sustain me in every hard time of life. It doesn't, fix it all magically. I don't magically just feel like everything's okay and I'm totally happy after reading a psalm. But what I do feel is met in my aching. I do feel soothed in my spirit as it encourages me to lift my gaze to the Lord. And what I'm met with is a God who loves me as his daughter, who sees it all and who is unchanging. And this is a biggie for me personally, Um, I love it. And like I said at the beginning, there's loads of different things that loads of people will do. And that's also great. Find your rhythm with God in the hard times. And actually, often I start with worship. I find that's a really helpful entry point for me. I have this playlist called Peace on Spotify, and I have it. And if I don't know what to do, and I don't know where to start, if it's big, if it's little, I just stick that on. It's there, it's ready to go, it's calm worship songs, and I'm like, okay. And that rhythm of putting on worship music then leads me to the scriptures. There we go. Worship leads me to scriptures. I open the Psalms usually. The Psalms lead me to silence and solitude. The solitude leads me to prayer. Prayer leads me to confession of who God is and how much I need him. The confession leads me to hesed, which is a word maybe you're not super familiar with. We've been talking a bit about it around here. But for me, what the practice of hesed looks like in the valleys is it looks like receiving God's love for me and also knowing I don't walk this alone. I'm not walking through the valley on my own, which is, by the way, exactly what the enemy would have you believe. There's no one with you for miles around. No one's there. You're on your own. You work it out. You get out. No, not true. Frankly, not true. God is with me, and my community is with me too. In action, in my life, this looks like Simon and I have a WhatsApp list, I suppose, of our Hesed people. We text them when we need help. We text them when we're in a valley. Sometimes we just say, please pray. And they pray, so we know we're not alone. Sometimes we need company, we want to talk it out, we want to meet up. Sometimes we're asking for help with something, but always we're asking for love from our community, from those around us, because we know we can't do it on our own. I can't. And instead of just hearing from me, I could talk all day, honestly, about what God has done and how he's met me in the valleys, but I just want to invite Liana to come up as well, and I'm going to talk with her a little bit. We're going to do something a little bit different mid-preach and hear about her experiences of how she's met God in the valley. So we're getting stools. They're coming. Yeah. Bear with us, people. Yeah, maybe just move it to the side and then we'll... Oh, actually, jokes. I need this. Okay. Hello, Liana. Welcome to the stage.
Hello.
Everyone give Liana a welcome. Thank you. So, we've talked a lot about different practices. I would love to hear a little bit about your story. For those who don't know about your story, your and Tom's story, could you tell us a little bit about particularly your years of dealing with infertility and that journey?
Yeah, so, that's louder than I was expecting. For those here a few weeks ago, we had our son James dedicated, and I mentioned then, and I have in various times in the past mentioned a little bit, that we struggled with infertility, and God has blessed us with 2 beautiful children. So we got married at 23, and when you're young like that, you expect things to just happen as they happen. You never expect anything to not work. I remember on our wedding day, people saying, like, how long is it going to be before you have kids? And we were like, 3 or 4 years, probably. That seemed like forever. But in reality, it didn't work like that. We were quite a lot older when we actually started trying, and it didn't work. We had to go to we were referred to various different hospitals during that time, and saw lots of different doctors and had lots of different testing. And it was deemed that the only kind of option for us would be IVF. So we had 5 different rounds initially, ending in different circumstances. We had a couple of miscarriages. Some of them just failed rounds, and it was a hard time. That was sort of the good bit of the journey.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And thanks for sharing. So honestly, yeah. And during those years of, was it 8 years you said?
Yeah, so it was over about 8 years.
Yeah. During those years, 8 years of waiting and of really unanswered prayer, unanswered questions,
Yeah.
what helped you guys? What helped you stay connected to God
Yeah, so in some ways I find that like when things are hard, it's almost is easier to rely on God because you've got nothing else. That we couldn't do it in our own strength. I could go on the diets and try and like, obviously we had amazing medical professionals that were helping us, which I believed were given by God, and the skills that they had were given by God to be able to support us and help us in that time. But I think we really sort of leaned into Psalms and scriptures. We had various people that brought words of knowledge for us, which was amazing. But also, there were times where, so like we had a few people that said to us that they could see children in our future. And that's amazing to hear. There was moments where we went, oh, wait a minute, we both work in education. Maybe they just mean that. Maybe this isn't what God's got for us. But is that the valleys and the peaks, I suppose. But we had a great community around us. We had people that were praying for us all the time. I am a bit of an oversharer. The fact that I'm sitting here talking about it shows that a bit. But I suppose I never kept silent in our suffering. We shared with people around us, and we had people that were aware of treatment that we were having and praying for us. And also able to like drop off a lasagna when I had a miscarriage and I didn't want to do anything, and I just so people around us, relying in scriptures, being together in it. It wasn't like I was struggling with something at work and it was just me that's dealing with it, but actually like me and Tom were in it together, so we could be together and pray together. We found like a meditation. It was a Christian meditation that we did together that was some of this time, like some time focusing on scripture and some time in not solitude because we were together, but in silence, and then prayer. So there's various different ways that God spoke to us through that time, but probably more.
That's great, thank you. There is a real breadth of ways that you can connect with God, isn't there? And, were there any particular moments that you can think of where you experienced God's faithfulness in a way that you won't forget?
So there was various times over the years as well. We had one particular time was that we had our second miscarriage. We'd gone for our 12-week scan and we were super excited because we thought, this is it. We're there. We're done. It's happening. And there wasn't a heartbeat. And the nurse that was telling us this was just so lovely. Like, she had to break that horrible news to us. And I, in my kind of being a good Christian and relying on God, was sort of there in the scan room saying, it's okay because we know that God's got something good for us. If it's not this, then he'll have something else. And kind of trying in that moment to like make it okay. And she said to us, she said, I'm not a Christian, but I think I remember from when I was a child and I read a bit of the Bible or I was told it at school that Jesus wept. She said, like, so it's okay to be sad because Jesus was sad, wasn't he? And she didn't really, like, she wasn't a Christian, but she used a bit of knowledge that she had from her childhood to comfort us at that time, and that was really like poignant. That made a big difference to us that God had placed that lady there at that time for us. There was also a few times where there was different things, but there was a picture that I don't know if you put up, but we went into the fertility clinic at one point, and this was up on the wall, like somebody had just drawn it, and it was, I think that was possibly just after a miscarriage as well, but to kind of go in and see this beautiful artwork up on the wall that says miracles happen, and it just helped us trust in God, rely on him.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. And it's really encouraging. Oh, look how beautiful that is. Yeah. It's really encouraging to hear of God's goodness to you guys in that time, and that reminder that Jesus isn't scared of our sadness, that he's right there crying with us sometimes, and that it's okay to feel sad in the valleys. So, yeah, can we give Liana a round of applause? Thank you for sharing.